Indarapatra and Sulaiman, a Maranao epic. A long, long time ago, Mindanao was covered with water, and the sea covered all the lowlands, so that nothing could be seen but the mountains jutting from it. There were many people living in the country, and all the highlands were dotted with villages and settlements. For many years, the people prospered, living in peace and contentment. Suddenly there appeared in the land four horrible monsters, which in short time devoured every human being they could find. Corita, a terrible creature with many limbs, lived partly on the land and partly on the sea, but its favorite haunt was the mountain where the rattan palm grew, and there it brought utter destruction on every living thing. The second monster, Tarabusao, an ugly creature in the form of a man, lived on Mount Matutum, and far and wide from that place he devoured the people, laying waste to land. The third, an enormous bird called Pa, was so large that when on the wing it covered the sun and brought darkness to the earth. Its egg was as large as a house. Mount Bita was its haunt, and there the only people who escaped its voracity were those who hid in the mountain caves. The fourth monster was also a dreadful bird, having 7 heads and the power to see in all directions at the same time. Mount Gurayan was its home, and like the others, it wrought havoc to its region. So great was the death and destruction caused by these terrible creatures that at length the news spread even to the most distant lands, and all nations grieved to hear the sad fate of Mindanao. Now far across the sea, in the land of the golden sunset, was a city so great that to look at its many people would endure the eyes of men. When tidings of these great disasters reached this distant city, the heart of King Indarapacha was filled with compassion, and he called his brother Suleiman and begged him to save the land of Mindanao from the monsters. Suleiman listened to the story, and as he heard it, was moved with pity. "I will go," zeal and enthusiasm adding to his strength, "and the land shall be avenged," said the king, and Darapatra, proud of his brother's courage, gave him a ring and a sword as he wished him success and safety. Then he placed a young sapling by his window and said to Suleiman, "By this tree I shall know your fate from the hour you depart from here. For if you live, it will live, but if you die, it will die also." So Sulaiman departed for Mindanao, and he neither waded nor used a boat, but went through the air and landed on the mountain where the rattan grew. There he stood on the summit and gazed about on all sides. He looked on the land and the villages, but he could see no living thing. And he was very sorrowful and cried out, "Alas, how pitiful and dreadful is this devastation!" No sooner had Suleiman uttered those words than the whole mountain began to move and then shook. Suddenly, out of the ground came the horrible creature Kurita. It sprang at the man and sank its claws at its flesh. But Suleiman, knowing at once that this was the scourge of the land, drew his sword and cut Kurita to pieces. Encouraged by his first success, Suleiman went on to Mount Matutum, where conditions were even worse. As he stood on the heights viewing the great devastation, there was a noise in the forest and a movement in the trees. With a loud yell, the Rabusau forth leaped. For the moment they looked at each other, neither showing any sign of fear. Then Tarabusau used all his powers to try to devour Suleiman, who fought back. For a long time the battle continued, until at last the monster fell exhausted to the ground, and Suleiman killed him with his sword. The next place visited by Suleiman was Mount Bita. Here havoc was present everywhere, and though he passed by many homes, he saw that not a single soul was left. As he walked, sudden darkness fell over the land, startling him. As he looked toward the sky, he beheld a great bird that swooped upon him. Immediately he struck, and the bird fell dead at his feet. But the wing fell on Suleiman, and he was crushed. Now, at this very time, King Indarapacha was sitting at his window, and looking out, he saw the little tree wither and dry up. "Alas!" he cried, "my brother is dead!" And he wept bitterly. Then, although he was very sad, he was filled with a desire for revenge. Putting on his sword and belt, he started for Mindanao in search for his brother. He too traveled through the air with great speed until he came to the mountain where the rattan grew. There he looked about, awed at the great destruction, and when he saw the bones of Kurita, he knew that his brother had been there. He went on till he came to Matutong, and when he saw the bones of Tarabusao, he knew that this too was the work of Suleiman. Still searching for his brother, he arrived at Mount Bita, where the dead bird lay on the ground. And when he lifted the severed wing, he beheld the bones of Suleiman, with his sword by his side. His grief now so overwhelmed Indarapatra that he wept for some time. Upon looking up, he beheld a small jar of water by his side. This he knew had been sent from the heavens, and he poured the water over the bones, and Suleiman came back to life again. They greeted each other and talked animatedly for a great length of time. Suleiman declared that he had not been dead, but asleep, and their hearts were full of joy. After some time, Suleiman returned to his distant home, but Indrapacha continued his journey to Mount Gurayan, where he killed the dreadful bird with 7 heads. After these monsters had all been killed, peace and safety had been restored to the land. Indarapacha began searching everywhere to see if some people who hid in the earth were still alive. In the course of his search, he caught sight of a beautiful woman at a distance. When he hastened toward her, she disappeared through a hole in the ground where she stood. Disappointed and tired, he sat down on a rock to rest. When looking about, he saw near him a pot of uncooked rice, with a big fire on the ground in front of it. This revived him, and he proceeded to cook the rice. As he did so, however, he heard someone laugh nearby, and turning, he beheld an old woman watching him. As he greeted her, she drew near and talked to him while he ate the rice. Of all the people in the land, the woman told him, only few were left, and they hid in a cave in the ground, from whence they never ventured to come out. As for herself and her old husband, she went on, they had hidden in a hollow tree, and this they had never dared to leave until Suleiman killed the voracious bird Pa. At Indarapatra's request, the old woman led him to one such cave. There he met the headman with his family and some people. They all gathered around the stranger, asking many questions, for this was the first time they had heard about the death of the monsters. When they found out what Indrapatra had done for them, the headman gave his daughter to him in marriage, and she proved to be the beautiful girl whom Indrapatra had seen at the mouth of the cave. Then the people all came out of their hiding places and returned to their homes where they lived in peace and happiness. And the sea withdrew from the land and gave the lowlands to the people.